Spooky reveal. Millionaire haunted after catching Nanny crying in his daughter's room at midnight. It was a night like no other, darker than the deepest void. When the air crackled with an unsettling energy in the lavish estate of billionaire David Harrington, the chandelier swayed gently, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls, whispering secrets of untold horrors. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream pierced through the stillness, ripping apart the fragile calm. David's heart raced as he shot out of bed. Had something happened to little Lily? He stumbled through the hallway, each step heavier than the last, feeling an invisible weight pressing down on him. As he reached his daughter's room, he froze. The door hung ajar, as if it had been flung open in a desperate escape. Dread consumed him like a dark cloud. With trembling hands, he pushed the door wide, and there it was, a spine-chilling sight. The nanny Alice knelt beside Lily's bed, her shoulders shaking with deep gut-wrenching sobs. She looked up, her eyes pools of fear and sorrow, and for a moment David couldn't breathe. What kind of nightmare had he walked into? "Why are you crying?" he demanded, his voice a rough whisper. But Alice didn't respond. Instead, her gaze flicked past David, and he felt a cold shiver race up his spine. What was lurking in the shadows? As Alice finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper, barely audible over the haunting silence. I saw her. But she's not here," she stammered, her eyes darting around, searching the corners of the room as if haunted by unseen spirits. The room felt heavier, alive with a presence they couldn't see but could certainly feel. David's mind raced. Was the house truly haunted? Had something happened to Lily that he wasn't aware of? Memories of strange happenings danced like phantoms in his mind. The night he noticed the antique mirror shatter without explanation, or the inexplicable cold drafts tugging at the curtains. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. David felt breathless, a lump forming in his throat as he tried to process Alice's chilling words. What do you mean she's not here? Panic raced in his chest like wildfire, igniting his veins. The house felt like it was closing in, the walls echoing with warnings. Before he could react, a low, mournful cry sounded from the corner, sending them both jumping back. The wind howled through the window, and for a heartbeat, the world stood still. What did Alice see? What did she know? The mystery clawed at David's soul, wrapping around him like a vice, leaving only one question lingering in the frigid air. What had taken his daughter? David's heart thundered in his chest, drowning out the sound of the wind that howled like a mourning spirit outside. Adrenaline coursed through him, sharpening his senses as fear wrapped its icy fingers around his spine. He turned to Alice, her tear-streaked face betraying the depths of her terror. "Where is Lily?" he shouted, desperation thick in his voice. Alice managed to gasp out, I don't know. I saw her standing by the window. She was smiling." The last word felt like a dagger that twisted in the air between them. But when I blinked, she was gone. The room felt alive, pulsating with a suffocating dread. David looked around, eyes wide, searching for any sign of his daughter. All he saw were shadows, grotesque shapes forming in the corners of his mind, suffocating, whispering secrets he refused to hear. A flicker of movement caught his eye, the curtains billowed, though there was no wind. The air turned cold. It can't be real, David muttered to himself, more to calm his racing heart than because he believed it. He stepped closer, drawn to the window like a moth to a flame. What if she's in danger? His voice trembled as he reached for the curtain, pulling it back. But only darkness stared back at him. A wave of nausea washed over him as he felt the oppressive weight of the house bearing down on him. Alice's breathing quickened as she noticed his hesitation. "Please, David. We need to leave. Now." Her voice was urgent, panic spilling into her words. "Leave? Where?" "She's here somewhere," he snapped, holding his ground. But the worry twisted in his gut. What if she had gone wandering through the estate? The thought of Lily lost in this sprawling mansion set his thoughts ablaze, fueling his anxiety. Suddenly, Alice grabbed his arm, pulling him back sharply. "She's not safe here. Didn't you hear her? She needs you, but whatever is here, it doesn't want us to leave." David's gaze hardened, determination flooding through him. He would not let anything take his daughter from him. "Then we'll find her. We'll figure this out together," he stated firmly, though doubt gnawed at his insides. But he had to be strong, especially for Lily. In a swift movement, he rushed to the door. "Stay close," he shouted over his shoulder, feeling the icy breath of the unknown brush against his skin as he stepped into the hallway. He opened the door and stepped into the dark corridor, the heavy air pressing down on them like a suffocating blanket. Shadows flickered along the walls, distorting the familiar decor of the mansion into eerie figures. David squinted into the darkness, listening intently for the sound of Lily's laughter, her tiny voice, anything that felt like hope. "Did you hear that?" Alice whispered, her voice shaking with fear. Before he could respond, a giggle echoed through the halls, young, innocent, and utterly out of place in the chilling atmosphere. It danced around them, leading David forward. "Lily," he called out, hope mixing with trepidation, each step echoing in the silence, reverberating off the walls of the vast house. But with every syllable, the giggle receded, teasing him like a mirage. "David, wait," Alice warned, but it was too late. He was already moving toward the sound as he rounded a corner. The hallway stretched endlessly ahead, almost mocking him. Darkness loomed and the walls seemed to close in. Despair clawed at his chest, tightening its grip. Was he losing her? Or worse, was something sinister watching them from the shadows? Then from behind he heard it again, a whisper, "Daddy, help me." The voice was unmistakable. Panic surged through him like wildfire, igniting his feet into motion. He sprinted forward, dread urging him on. What if he was too late? In that moment, unseen eyes seemed to grip him, holding his breath in a vice-like grip, as every instinct screamed at him to turn back. Yet, as he dove into the obscurity, a deep growl interrupted the sound of his heart. Something dark was lurking, waiting. What was this thing that wanted to keep Lily hidden away? And did it want David next? He took a sharp breath, stepping deeper into the unknown, prepared to confront the imminent darkness. But before he could take another step, the air thickened and a cold laugh rang out, seeping into his bones. Where was his daughter? And who or what had taken her from him? The answers felt just beyond reach, lurking in the shadows. David's heart pounded louder with every step he took down the shadowy corridor. The cold laugh echoed in his mind, a sinister reminder that danger lurked at every corner. It gripped him with a fear that twisted like a knife in his gut. "Lily!" he shouted desperately into the void, hoping against hope that his voice would reach her, that it would break the spell of this cursed house. Silence swallowed his words whole, leaving behind only the shallow breathing of Alice, who was close on his heels. "David, we should go back." Alice's voice trembled, fear flooding her words. "What if we can't? I want to lose her," he interrupted, his tone sharp. He couldn't let doubt touch him now. They would find Lily. Another giggle echoed, clearer this time, drawing him further into the darkness. It was intoxicating. The sound was both a beacon and a trap. He almost could feel her presence, a warmth emanating from the chilling air. "Did you hear that?" Alice whispered, lingering behind him, her hand gripping the wall for stability. "Just stay with me," he barked, urging them both onward. The path twisted ahead, taking him deeper into the heart of the mansion, where the air felt thick, as if pressurized by unspoken horrors waiting to be unleashed with each step. David was struck by the peculiar markings along the walls. Dark smudges shaped like hands, scratches, and what looked eerily like claw marks. Dread pooled in his stomach. This place wasn't just old and eerie, it was haunted. Suddenly, he rounded another corner, and the laughter crescendoed into a fit of giggles before abruptly cutting off. The silence that followed was deafening, wrapping around him like a suffocating shroud. "Lily!" he called again, fear tightening his throat. He moved instinctively towards the sound, his heart racing as a sense of urgency enveloped him as he approached a door at the far end of the corridor. Cold air shimmered against his skin. The door was slightly ajar, darkness spilling through the gap like ink. He reached for the doorknob, his fingers trembling. David, don't. Alice's warning hung in the air, but his resolve was ironclad. With a forceful push, he opened the door wide inside. The room was empty, save for the old rocking chair that creaked slowly as if someone had just vacated it. Shadows danced across the walls, and on the wooden floor laid a single toy, a small pink teddy bear, its button eyes glistening in the low light. Lily? He croaked, stepping inside, his heart threatening to choke him. The soft whisper of an unseen breeze brushed against his cheek, and there it was again, the echo of his daughter's voice, filled with both delight and despair. Daddy, come play. He spun around, scanning the room, searching for her tiny form, but found only the darkness that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly life of its own. Over here! Alice shouted from the doorway, her eyes wide with panic. David turned to see her pointing toward the window, the curtain fluttering as if something was trying to escape. He rushed to her side. Through the open window where night met infinite black, he saw something move. A shadow slithered away, quick and deliberate, and with it a flicker of silver. No! Lily! He shouted, panic surging. The shadow vanished into the darkness of the garden below, and he could feel the air grow colder. The realization hit him like a punch. They were not alone. What was out there waiting for him? Had they come to this place only to be trapped in its depths? Alice clutched his arm, her expression a mix of fear and disbelief. We have to go, David. Now. But he hesitated, knowing Lily was just beyond reach, somewhere in the shadows. Before he could decide, a soft, haunting whisper brushed past him, chilling him to the bone. Daddy, help me. The sound drew him like a magnet, and he took a step toward the window, and that moment, the lights flickered above them, plunging the room into darkness. Fear gripped David's heart, squeezing tightly as everything around him seemed to pulse with sinister life. He was being pulled into the very depths of a nightmare, and somewhere in that void, his daughter was lost. What kind of spirit was stalking them? And would they make it out alive? The answers teetered on the edge of the unknown, as darkness wrapped around him like a shroud. David's heart raced, an echo against the sound of darkness swallowing the room. He felt Alice tighten her grip on his arm, her breath quickening in fear. The flickering lights threw ghostly shadows that twisted and turned like wraiths dancing in despair. Just as he thought he might lose his nerve, the whisper came again, fragile yet insistent. Daddy, help me! Instinct drew him toward the window. Every fiber of his being screamed for him to leap into the abyss for Lily. He swallowed the lump in his throat, willing himself to focus on the frame, the opportunity to reach her. But the house had other plans. The air thickened around him, electric with malevolent energy. A chill crept under his skin as the shadows shifted, losing their familiar shapes. The room felt alive, trembling with unspoken warnings. He glanced back at Alice, her eyes wide, flickering with uncertainty. We have to get out now, she urged, a tremor in her voice. But the pull of Lily was like gravity, impossible to resist. No, she needs me. He gritted his teeth as his fingers brushed against the cool, dusty windowsill. He stood at the brink of a decision, the darkness whispering promises of answers and threats all at once. With one last look back at Alice's pleading gaze, he took a deep breath and swung open the window. The night air was icy and sharp, stinging his face as he peered down into the garden below. Shadows lurked amongst the skeletal trees, but all he saw was the faint trace of that fleeting silver shimmer from before. Lily! He shouted again, desperation racking his voice. Alice's scream pierced the suffocating silence. David, behind you! He spun around just in time to see it, a figure stepping out of the shadows, its features blurred like a mirage. A tall silhouette stood between them in the doorway, dark as midnight but with eyes that seemed to glow like dying embers. The entity didn't move, but an overwhelming sense of dread washed over David, urging him to flee. Get back! He yelled, pushing Alice behind him as the figure began to take form. Let her go! The voice was a low growl, filled with rage and sorrow, echoing off the walls with a weight that pressed down on David's chest. The rocking chair creaked ominously, rocking as though a ghostly child was still seated there. Alice's frantic movements brought David back to his senses. We need to find another way out, she shouted. But the shadow was advancing, its intent sinister and palpable. Something primal urged him to protect Alice. Run! He yelled, thrusting her toward the door. but she hesitated, glancing up at him. What about Lily? The entity stepped closer, its form becoming clearer. Long hair fell over its face. Hiding its expression was that despair or deadly intent. David's pulse quickened. He felt a wicked smile cross the figure's lips as if it savored their turmoil and a single terrifying heartbeat. The specter lunged toward him. David threw himself against Alice, pushing them both to the side just as a cold wind whipped through the room, extinguishing the nearest candle. Darkness swallowed them alive. Forget her. We can't help Lily if we're dead. He dragged Alice backward, their combined terror turning to frantic whispers to find an escape. The air thickened with ghostly echoes, a chorus of cries weaving through the silence, urging them to surrender. Daddy! That sweet voice called again, terrifyingly high. It was closer, but so was the figure behind them. As David stumbled backward, his foot caught on something rubbery, a child's ball, forgotten on the floor. A rush of memories flashed before him. Laughter, games, light. He could smell the faint scent of his daughter's shampoo. Hear her little feet running down the hall. It pierced his heart like a dagger. Lily! He shouted, desperation clawing at his throat. Could he unleash the fear in his heart into power? Channel it into a force to shatter the shadows? But time was running out. He needed to act, and fast. What price would he have to pay to confront this darkness? Before he could decide, a cacophony erupted outside. The very walls of the mansion seemed to tremble. What awaited them in the depths of that madness they dared to tread into? The answer hung tantalizingly close, yet just beyond grasp, and so with darkness closing in and the whispers returning, David and Alice found themselves trapped in a race against time. A desperate fight for a flicker of hope in an abyss of dread. But little did they know, the mansion had secrets yet to reveal, and Lily was not the only one calling for them. What had come untethered from this cursed place? And would they survive the wrath of the vengeful spirit? The darkness rushed toward them like an angry tide. David's heart thundered in his chest, every beat a warning. Alice! He cried as the entity loomed closer, its presence suffocating. The air pulsed with a collective dread, pulling on his lungs. Behind him the window felt like a gateway to freedom, but the figure was a wall between them and escape. David glanced at Alice, fear etched on her face. She shook her head, tears glistening in her eyes. We can't just leave her. The urgency in her voice flipped a switch in him, igniting a fire of determination. He couldn't leave Lily in that abyss. Not while he still had breath in his body. Then we fight, he shouted, hoping to ignite a spark of bravery in their hearts. He turned to the entity, feeling the weight of the room shift. What do you want? What do you want from us? His voice was defiant, yet deep inside he was trembling. The specter paused, the shadows swirling. It raised a hand slowly, and for a heartbeat the room fell silent. The figure lowered its arm, and as it did, the anger in its eyes flickered like dimming embers. She calls to you, it rasped, the voice a dissonant melody that scraped against David's sanity. But her light is my pain. What did you do to her? David demanded, pushing against the instinct to back down. With each word the room shifted, the shadows spiraling into a vortex around them, drawing David and Alice deeper into the specter's grief. The air grew thick with the scent of decay, of long-buried secrets clawing to the surface. She is not what she seems. The words punched through the darkness, chilling David's blood. For a moment, he felt the walls of reality buckle, twisting memories into nightmarish images. Lily's laughter tinged with echoes of sobbing faint and distant. A tremor coursed through him. No, she's innocent. She's my daughter. Panic clawed at David's mind, and the shadows drew even closer, seeping into his thoughts. Alice stepped forward, eyes glistening with conviction. We can help her. Just let us try. The desperation in her voice stilled the entity. Shadows flickered, like an argument hidden within its depths, childlike and bereft. Help! It echoed, pain lining its tone. The price is steep. What do you want? David asked, his hands clenched into fists. The air shimmered as the specter straightened, revealing ghostly features that hung between rage and sorrow. The voice quivered like a fog. To release her, you must confront the shadows of your own heart. Only then will the tether break. A cold sweat broke out across David's brow. Confront his own shadows? He had buried so much guilt, regrets, memories. The thought sent ice shooting down his spine. Suddenly, the lights flickered again. They dimmed before bursting back to life, revealing Lily standing in the doorway, her figure glowing with an otherworldly light. "Daddy, help me!" David's heart lurched, a tug of love pulling him even deeper into the chasm of uncertainty. "Lily!" "No!" Alice shrieked, but it was too late. David marched toward his daughter, driven by instinct, not realizing the danger that awaited. The specter shifted behind him, its face contorting into a mask of envy and despair. "Do you understand what you seek to reclaim?" it hissed, its eyes burning. David turned back. "I'll do anything." Desperation laced his voice. "Then open your heart to the truth." As he reached for Lily, a shriek tore through the air, a sound that shattered the very foundation of the mansion. The walls trembled and the lights dimmed again, plunging them into chaos. Chilling winds swept through the room, swirling with icy fingers, carrying whispers of forgotten memories. The shadows began to shift and morph around David, collapsing into twisted forms that stretched toward him, each one a specter of his worst nightmares. Faces flickered before him, lost loves, ghosts of mistakes, moments he wished he could erase. "Face them!" the specter roared, its voice commanding. "Only then will you save her." Everything seemed to swirl, merging into a sacrificial pool of doubt. David felt his courage falter. Would he be strong enough to face his demons? Could he truly cut through the shadows that had haunted him all this time? Just as he thought he might drown in that darkness, a voice, soft yet fierce, echoed in his mind. "Daddy, please!" And in that moment the choice lay before him. Step forward into the darkness or retreat into the light. But what if taking that step meant facing the very heart of his own anguish? David took a breath, feeling the weight of Lily's voice drawing him nearer. There was only one way to find out what truths lay buried in the labyrinth of his soul, and would they free him or condemn them all? The shadows rose, dark and menacing, brushing against David's skin like cold fingers. He took a step forward, forcing his feet to move, driven by the desperate plea of his daughter. The air grew thick with whispers, each one clawing at his mind with memories he had locked away long ago. "Lily!" he shouted again, his voice trembling with raw emotion, but the room echoed back with haunting silence. The flourish of the specter loomed closer, swallowing the remnants of light around him. With every heartbeat, doubt coursed through his veins. Was he strong enough to confront what lay ahead? "Daddy, help me!" The words were softer now, a sweet melody tinged with fear. Her voice cracked, sending a rush of fear into his soul. He pressed forward, his resolve tightening. Suddenly, the cacophony of whispers sharpened, voices overlapping into a dissonant chorus, each one a reminder of his failures. "You left her. You weren't there. You thought you could forget?" Each statement pierced him like arrows, steeped in resentment and regret. David clenched his jaw, gripping the phantom threads of courage. "I'm here now," he shouted, the declaration ripping through the heavy air. "I won't abandon her." He could feel the entity's presence shifting, almost considering his words. "Will you face the reality you've denied?" the specter asked, its voice now a chilling essence. Images began to swirl in the air before him, faded photographs, snapshots of a life he could barely recall. Each fragment revealed a moment. Laughter with Lily, failures in his career, the wound of his marriage fracturing. They all bled into the present, threatening to consume him. David's breath hitched, despair wrapped around him like a vice. Then, a memory surged, a day he had promised Lily a picnic in the park, only to work late and miss her smile. The pain shot through him sharp and clear. "I was wrong," he whispered, the admission slipping into the shadowy air. "No more lies," the specter hissed, its face morphing into reflections of those he had hurt, their eyes filled with pain and longing. "Face what you've ignored." As the storm of doubt swirled, David locked his gaze on Lily's silhouette, glowing despite the turmoil. "I love you." He let the truth breathe. "I won't lose you, not again." "Can you overcome your fears?" the figure challenged, the rancor in its voice softening just a touch. "In your heart lies the power to break this bond." The dark form shifted, revealing more shadows, his own face, coated with regret. Did he truly have the strength? It felt as if the walls pressed in, echoing his vulnerability. As the tendrils of darkness brushed against him, panic surged fresh from his wounds. "No," he shouted, pushing against the tidal wave of despair. "I will not be afraid." He reached out, trembling but resolute, ready to confront the grotesque reflections of his past mistakes. The air crackled with tension. Could he survive the onslaught of guilt? Would he embrace his past to rescue Lily? In that climactic moment, levees broke inside him. David felt a warmth rise to clash against the icy shadows. I own my truth. His voice surged, melding with the flicker of hope, igniting a spark of courage he thought lost forever. As he steadied himself, the specter writhed, thrown off balance by the unexpected surge of defiance. Embrace the shadows or drown, it bellowed, the swirling chaos around them slowing as if holding its breath. Together, Lily, we can escape. The shattering echoes echoed back, swelling with both anguish and an unyielding hope. Just as David prepared to plunge into the fray of his own heart, the shadows quivered. A terrifying roar erupted from within the depths of darkness, and in that instant, the temperature plunged. What darkness awaited him as he stepped closer to reclaim his daughter? What secrets would turn the tide? Or would he sink under their weight? His pulse quickened. It was now or never. Would the spectacular truth lead to salvation or damnation? As he took that final step forward, the fumes of dread loomed ominously, and an unearthly silence fell upon the room. What awaited him beyond the veil of shadows? Would his heart hold the key to freedom, or merely unlock a deeper abyss? David plunged forward into the darkness, his heart racing like a wild animal, pounding against his chest. The cold tendrils twisted around him, but he felt a surge of warmth rising, a defiance igniting within him. I will face you, he shouted, challenging the heart of the void. The shadows flickered, revealing glimpses of memories that haunted him the moment he accidentally broke his daughter's favorite toy, the argument with his ex-wife that left scars on their hearts. Each flash echoed in his mind and cramped his chest. They stung, but he couldn't let them drown him again. He had to break the cycle. Remember when you thought you could bury the truth? The specter taunted, its voice a sinister whisper that resonated in the hollow. A grotesque maw formed in the darkness, filled with spectral faces, all staring at him with hollow eyes of despair. Images collided in his mind: a shattered life, broken promises, unfulfilled love, and he felt the weight of their judgments. Stop! He screamed, clenching his fists, desperation propelling every word. I'm not that man anymore. With each syllable more heat coursed through him, cutting through the chilly dread. Then prove it. The entity roared, transforming moment by moment, twisting images of Lily's joyful smile into a cry of anguish. Are you willing to sacrifice everything to save her? David felt a tremor of fear. What would that entail? Hadn't he already sacrificed enough when he let his career push him away from her? Memories of her laughter twisted into a frantic cacophony. Could he truly face those choices again? The silence of the room ignited with a deafening roar in his mind as images swirled violently around him. Find her! An ear-piercing wail emanated from the shadows, wrapping around him like chains of ice. Face your failures and win her back, or lose her forever. Driven by instinct, David forced himself deeper into the abyss. He pressed through the wall of icy dread, ready to confront the very demons he sought to escape. He could feel the shrieking voices of the past clawing at him, whispering doubts and fears into his ears. You're unworthy. You will fail. But beneath that clamor, he found the steady rhythm of his daughter's heartbeat. Lily! He cried, struggling to pierce through the gloom. I'm coming. Hold on. With each step, he prepared to embrace the wreckage of his heart, the failures that formed the very fabric of his fears. The shadows shifted, quaking under the weight of his resolve, and he felt the presence of the specter grow restless, thrashing against the truth he was beginning to discover. Then, suddenly, silence fell. It felt like a storm had passed, but an eerie calm enveloped him. The shadows folded inwards, pulled apart like curtains revealing unsettling truths. In the stillness, a lone light flickered, illuminating a small figure standing alone in the distance, her familiar outline casting a radiant glow. Daddy, Lily's voice echoed softly, breaking through the darkness like a ray of sunshine. Help me. You're here. He shouted, relief washing over him, but instinct screamed that this wasn't the end, merely a fragile beginning. He sprinted toward her, heart full of renewed purpose. Yet as he rushed forward, the shadows twisted violently, the specter now writhing in anger. You think it's that easy? It seethed. The past isn't he so easily cast aside. David tried to reach her, but an impenetrable force pushed him back, absence and longing clawing at his heart. Panic bubbled in his throat. No, let me through. Lily's figure wavered, a flicker of fear crossing her radiant face as she reached out toward him. His heart ached at the sight. What was lurking behind that light? What more did he need to confront before he could claim her? There, suspended in that moment, David knew he stood at a precipice. Would he be swallowed by the spectre's darkness, or could he bring that flickering light back to safety? A scream echoed through the air, unraveling all hope, suddenly twisting the light into a painful vortex of shadows. "Daddy!" echoed Lily's voice again, and David stood, poised, ready to leap. What waited beyond the fray? Would he risk everything in the desperate chase to reclaim the bond with his daughter? Or would the shadows reveal a truth more horrifying than he ever imagined? A surge of adrenaline rushed through David as he hurtled forward, his determination amplified by Lily's frightened plea. The oppressive darkness churned around him, trying to pull him back into despair. But he would not yield. "Hang on, Lily!" he shouted, each step a battle against the oppressive force surrounding him. The light that had once been a beacon now flickered precariously, casting long shadows that danced menacingly at the edges of his vision. Were they specters warning him of greater dangers? "Do you even know what you're fighting for?" The specter's voice echoed, heavy with contempt. It swirled around him, intensifying, feeding on his fear. "You think honor and love can simply erase mistakes? You think you can undo the scars?" "No," David snarled, clenching his teeth. With every ounce of strength he broke through another layer of shadows. "I won't let you take her." The air thickened, crackling with energy and tension. His heart thundered against his ribs as David stumbled into a clearing, the light once more illuminating the chapel of sorrow. There stood Lily, her figure now clearer, trembling yet radiant, but her eyes were filled with a mix of hope and dread. "Daddy!" she cried again, her small hands reaching out toward him. The raw, desperate need in her voice cut through the haze surrounding them. As he moved closer, an unseen wall pulsed between them, striking him like a blow. Lily's face contorted with fear as she pressed against it, and panic surged inside David. "Please. I'm right here. I won't leave you." But even as he spoke, the shadows around him thickened, whispering of his failures. "You could have prevented this. You could have chosen differently. Stop. I made mistakes. I know that. But I won't abandon her." David's pulse raced, each heartbeat driving him forward. This time he pushed against the barrier with everything he had. The shadows screamed, a chorus of lost voices echoing, and with one final shout, he released everything: the regret, the grief, the love. With a crack that echoed through the air, the force shattered. The shadows recoiled, shrieking as light flooded into the space, illuminating the darkness like a sunrise breaking the horizon. The barrier separating him from Lily crumbled to dust. "Daddy!" she beamed, warmth radiating from her smile as they rushed toward each other. He could almost feel the connection pulling them together, the love that had endured all, even through the darkest nights. But the moment was fleeting. From the edges of the dissipating shadows, the specter's enraged roar pierced the air. "You think this changes anything? You're still that man. You will always be that man." Dark forms clustered around the edges of the light, desperate to reclaim what they had lost. David's heart raced again, not with hope, but with a growling sense of dread. It wasn't just the specter. Behind it loomed unspoken truths, greater fears and haunting regrets he hadn't yet faced. "Daddy, what is happening?" Lily's small voice trembled, weighing heavily on his heart. "We'll make it through, I promise, but we have to be brave together," he said, swallowing hard against the rising fear in his throat. Suddenly the air shifted, charged with a new energy that felt familiar yet terrifying. As if a curtain was being drawn back, revealing the depths of their past, secrets he had buried began swirling into sight. David's breath caught in his throat. What other dark revelations awaited him? And there, in the dim light of their safety, a memory teetered on the brink of revelation. Would he be ready to confront it when it emerged? How deep would the shadows dig in their last attempts to tear them apart? The moment stretched, taut with uncertainty, hinting at horrors yet to be unveiled. And as the darkness began to close in again, David realized this was just the beginning. What other truths would rise from the ashes as he fought for Lily? Could he brave the worst of his fears? Or would the shadows overcome them both? The shadows swirled ominously, almost alive, darting like small creatures craving his surrender. David tightened his grip on himself, both physical and emotional, feeling every flaw, every regret latch onto him like a vice. "I won't let you take her," he repeated, though doubt seeped into his resolve, thick and suffocating as he stood frozen in the glow of scattered light. Memories clawed at his edges. Flashes of laughing moments with Lily, small soft hands wrapped around his fingers, and her innocent questions pierced through the heavy silence. Yet between those golden memories, darker taunts emerged, echoes of his harsh decisions that splintered their family, mistakes that chained their future. "Daddy, I'm scared," Lily whimpered, her small face marred by shadows creeping closer around them. The light flickered as if responding to her fear, threatening to extinguish. "Stay close to me." His voice surged, fierce and protective. The energy pulsating in the air intensified, prickling at his skin. Just behind him, the specter materialized, its voice a sinister hiss wrapping around him like smoke. "What makes you think courage is enough? You're running in circles, David. The past never forgets." The tension tightened like a bowstring ready to snap. David turned, fists clenched, staring into the swirling darkness. "I can't change the past, but I can protect my daughter from it." In that moment, David felt a flicker of rebellion spark within him. It was a fire fueled by all the nights he lay awake, berating himself for not being the father Lily deserved, for letting her smile become shadowed by twists of fate. He knew this was the pivotal moment to confront the reckoning he had been avoiding. With a ferocious roar, he charged forward, not knowing if he would push through the darkness or become engulfed by it. The specter recoiled slightly as he advanced, as if recognizing the sudden strength in his intent. "You think you can fight me? All the guilt, what you've hidden, what you've caused it isn't just going to fade. Get out of my way," David bellowed, feeling the weight of Lily's fragile form trembling beside him. He could focus only on her, her courage surging in tandem with his, the same courage that inspired him to battle against despair, against the haunting truth that had consumed him. The air crackled again, this time with a different essence. Memories surrounded him, swirling fragments of laughter and love, but also moments of pain and sorrow. He had to face them all, not only for himself but for Lily. It was the only way to break the cycle. As blasts of chaotic energy circled him, he reached deep, calling forth the strength of fatherhood, of love and of resilience. "Let us face this together, Lily," he shouted, letting his heart guide him. Searing light burst from his core, swamping the encroaching shadows momentarily, revealing fleeting glimpses of the specter's form, twisted and distorted. But just as David felt the tide shift, the specter struck back, its voice booming with rage. "You have no idea what you're unleashing. You'll wish you had stayed in the darkness." Suddenly a crack formed beneath David's feet, sharp and frantic, a whirlwind of echoes tumbling from the bowels of time. Panic gripped him, his worst memories began to spill forth, exposing the depths of his failures. "Daddy, what is happening?" Lily's voice quivered with fear, grounding him amidst the chaos. It was a question he needed an answer to, not just for her but for himself. "I'm here, Lily. Just hold on," he yelled back, the fissure widening under them, revealing swirling shadows promising abandonment and despair. As the ground trembled, David realized that the specter's final grip was on the darkest secret he had buried. The moment everything had changed. Would he reveal it now, at the brink of everything? Without hesitation, he looked to Lily, her innocent eyes begging him for reassurance. The truth was there, lurking, ready to ensnare them both. And just as he grasped the hope of what they could rebuild, a piercing scream erupted from the shadows. In that chilling moment, uncertainty flooded back, tightening his chest. Would bravery be enough, or would this reveal shatter everything they fought to protect? The frost of dread lingered, amplifying the urgency, as the abyss awaited their decision. Could he summon his deepest fears to turn the tide, or were they destined to be devoured by the very darkness he thought he had overcome? "This is just the beginning," he breathed, steeling himself for the storm ahead. Knowing the truth darted nearer. Would he and Lily stand together against what awaited, or would they become lost in the void? The air vibrated with an intensity that twisted David's insides as the specter roared in fury. It whipped through the shadows, a whirlpool of despair and rage. "You think you're strong? You're nothing but a tapestry of your failures, a canvas of abandonment. The taunting voice curled around him like smoke, choking him with memories just on the edge of his mind. But amidst the terror, David's resolve hardened. Not anymore, he shouted, bolstered by a newfound strength deep within. He turned to Lily, her small frame flickering in and out of the shadows, her eyes wide with both fear and trust. We'll face this together. His heart raced as he took a step forward, willing the light within him to spill out. The specter recoiled, momentarily bewildered by his defiance. You think you can break free? The darkness is part of you. It will always consume you. But David felt the fiery warmth of love surge through him, a love that had always been there, buried under layers of regret and guilt. It was right. The past was a part of him, but it did not define him. With every ounce of conviction, he reached into his memory, forcing the shadows to reveal their true forms. Faces of lost moments emerged. The countless birthdays he had missed, the laughter swallowed by time, the guilt that festered long after those bright days faded. But in the cacophony there were glimmers of joy too: Lily's giggles, the warm embrace of first hugs, the sunny afternoons they spent together in the park. I won't run from you anymore, he called, focusing that warmth into a fierce glow. You can't hold me hostage to my past. The shadows writhed, distorting around him in a frenzy, as he pushed through the darkness, inching toward the light that was Lily. See, he urged, looking directly into her eyes. We can bring light back. We can reclaim our joy. Each word resonated, igniting embers of courage within both of them. The specter howled, desperately trying to pull them apart. You'll never escape the truth. It will always haunt you. But with every scream, David felt strength solidify in his chest. He clenched his fists, drawing an air rich with love and resolve. I will face every shadow, he declared, the pulse of magic swirling in the air between them. Because together we shine brighter than any darkness could ever dim. The specter's roar split the air, a thunderous blend of madness and pain. But David pushed once more, shouting, Lily, reach for me. And there it was, a tiny golden thread of light blossoming between them. Lily stretched her small hands, her own resolve shining through. Daddy, I believe in you. With that, the ground beneath them cracked wider, shadows swirling violently, trying to devour their newfound strength. With a deep breath, David stepped into that radiance, pouring all the love he had into the shimmering connection. Together. As he stepped through, the darkness roared, yet they burst into the brilliant light, tearing through the veil of shadows, and one single heartbeat, they broke free. Light cascaded around them, bathing David and Lily in warmth as the whispers of the past fell away like autumn leaves. The specter's furious wails echoed into nothingness, fading back into memory, lost to the power of their love. They hovered within a peaceful sanctuary, the mansion's haunting presence dissolving behind them. All that remained was the gentle glow of their connection, shimmering in the air like the promise of a new dawn. David turned to Lily, who stood before him, her face radiant and bright. Daddy, are we free? She asked softly, her eyes shimmering with innocence. Yes, sweetheart, we are, he replied, crouching down to wrap her up in a tight embrace, feeling the warmth spread through him like sunlight. I'll always choose you. Promise. We'll face the future together, he whispered, his heart swelling with both relief and hope. Around them, the remnants of their past faded away, replaced by a soft breeze carrying whispers of laughter, a melody of new beginnings swirling through the air. They were free. The shadows that had once loomed large were now just echoes in his mind, remnants of a journey past. David leaned down and kissed the top of Lily's head, feeling the weight of their struggles lift. As they stood together, the warmth of healing enveloped them both, filling the air with possibilities. Let us go home, he said, feeling stronger than he ever had, a father renewed, ready to build anew. As they walked hand in hand out of the mansion, past the place of nightmares into the light of dawn, David turned one last time. He knew the echoes would still whisper sometimes, but with Lily by his side, they would drown them out with laughter and love. And with that, they walked into the horizon, stepping into a future unfettered by darkness. Now is your time to not just be a spectator in this journey. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, it makes a world of difference. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. We want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Show your support. Only true fans know how vital these actions are.